Hey, what is going on, faithful? It is Tuesday, April 26, 2022. This is the third episode of That Niner Life podcast. I am your host, Ron E. Niner. I hope everyone is having a great day. It's exciting to know that we are officially 1 day away from the draft. But first, today I have a special guest. We are going one on one with a really good friend of mine. He is the host of the Go to Rush Niners pod. I am really excited to have him on. Let me introduce you to my guy, Chris DiFrancesco. Chris, what is going on, brother? How are you doing?
Man, I'm better than I deserve, my friend. The fact that I'm even on this show, it's like we were talking right before we hit record, man. It was role reversals. You've done this twice with me now. Now it's my turn to return the favor, right? So I'm doing great, man. I can't believe we're already 1 day away from the draft.
Yeah, I know, right? And like we talked about earlier, I'm like, okay, so we get the reverse roles now. Let's see what
Yeah.
it's like. We've been talking about doing this, so I'm really excited to have you on. Let's jump into what's going on in the world of the 49ers. So,
Mm-hmm.
as you know, there was a highly anticipated press conference with John
Mm-hmm.
Lynch yesterday, and I am curious to know what your thoughts are. Let me ask you the first question here because I really want to know. Besides the obvious of hoping we got some information and news on Debo, I want to know what your expectations were going into that press conference yesterday from John Lynch.
So, other than the Debo news or the update or lack thereof, I really wanted to know well, first, I was actually hoping that we were going to be able to hear from Kyle Shanahan. That didn't happen. So that was my first expectation was already thrown out the window by that point, right? So for me, it was my expectation other than Debo was to maybe get an update on the Jimmy situation, maybe even the Nick Bosa situation. He touched on the Trey Lance, which is I was really happy to hear about that. Um, but yeah, I mean, other than the expectation of hoping to hear from Kyle Shanahan, uh, and other than Debo Samuel, man, I mean, I pretty much got my expectations of what's going on with what his thoughts were on Jimmy, Trey, and then I was really happy to hear him say that no, not to worry about Nick Bosa. Although he also told us not to worry about Debo Samuel a few months ago too. So
Right. And I mean, and we know, right? John Lynch doesn't really say a whole lot.
mhm.
I think what I thought was, I mean, are we really going to ask him those questions? Are we going to go there? Is he going to give us answers? But
Yeah.
we know, you know what I mean? He doesn't really go and cut straight to the point. Did you think John Lynch was actually going to divulge a treasure trove of information to us yesterday, or what were
No.
you expecting?
No.
No.
So and I'm from the East Coast. I live on the East Coast, so because I the only time I can really pay attention to the Niners is either listening to like your podcast or other podcasts. I also have to pay attention to what's going on in Philadelphia, with the Eagles and stuff like that because it's all over the place. It's radio, it's television. They're the number one thing in this area is football, is the Philadelphia Eagles, and when their general manager Howie Roseman speaks, the whole city thinks that he's going to divulge all of this information and he's going to tell all the secrets of what he's going to do, and it never happens. And yet, when you've been around sports for so long, and I was part of the sports media from 2005 to 2017, NFL and Major League Baseball and NHL, you learn really quick that these are basically just meetings and press conferences that just appease the media. That's all it is to give them something to write, whether it's before the draft or you're coming up on a trade deadline, or for baseball, you have the winter meetings. I had zero expectations of John Lynch to divulge anything significant at all. In fact, I knew in my heart of hearts that he was going to say, "Ain't no way, I don't see any way we ever trade Debo Samuel." Well, what's he going to do? He's going to go up there and say, we have a lot of plans right now with a lot of offers. We're going to trade Debo within the next 48 hours. He's not going to say that. So yeah, to answer your question, after getting long winded there, no, I did not expect Lynch to divulge anything significant.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I did see though, and there's always a lot of back and forth about this on Twitter with fans. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of debate as far as is the organization expected to satisfy the fans' ear? Um, because there's diehard fans who are they're gonna watch the product regardless, and then
Yep.
there's your fair weather fans who,
Hmm.
you know, I guess you got to please them to stay. And if you don't please them, they're gone. So, real quickly to touch on that, what is your take on that? Do you think it's an expectation of the organization to satisfy the majority of the fans when they come out and speak?
No, that's the media's job. The media's job is to speak to these executives, head coaches, players, and then relay the information as they see it back to us, the viewers. Or this is that's just how it works. I don't think John Lynch or Kyle Shanahan should ever go into a press conference thinking, how can we appease the fan base? Because realistically, if they win football games, that's all we care about. At the end of the day, if they are going to win football games, then that's all you need to tell me is what you do on the football field. It's the media's job to relay certain information back to me. I never ever expect anything from head coaches or general managers or even owners. It's just lip service at that point when they talk, because they're making a lot of money regardless of if they win 15 games or one game. They don't I don't want to say the words they don't care, but Twitter comments doesn't mean a thing to any of them. To the players, it does. It means a lot to players, but not when you're talking to head coaches, GMs, and owners. No, it's not their job to appease me. And the quicker that the fans and all the haters too, this is mainly to the haters on all the social media platforms. The quicker you realize that they don't care how you feel, the the less angry you're going to get towards them. That you have to focus. They don't make any decisions based on what you or I are talking about right now. They just don't, because their job is to find a way to just win football games. That's all it is. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, winning solves everything, right?
It
And no,
does.
and I mean, I'm set back by that sometimes because I did see a lot of known, I'd say content creators, influencers, disappointed with what they took away with, and I'm just like, I don't know necessarily think that that's what the outcome is from these press conferences, or what that's what they I don't think that's what the goal is for you to be happy with what they're going to tell you, because they're not really going to tell you much,
And to be
so
honest, not to cut you off, I'm really
no, go
sorry.
ahead.
And to be honest, they're actually in a lose-lose situation. If John Lynch comes on there, he doesn't say anything really about Debo, which he did. He didn't really say anything. Now he's getting shredded by content creators and media for, oh, how can you possibly be quiet and coy about this situation? This is an all-pro wide receiver, who you have under contract still. And then if he goes on there and says, yeah, the relationship's really soured, we're looking for the best deal possible. I mean, that wouldn't happen, but let's just say he did say something along those lines. Then everybody's going to be screaming, oh, why is he playing his hand? Now they're really going to trade. What are they looking for? Now we're not going to get the offer that we were initially going to get. It's a lose-lose situation for these guys to go behind that microphone and divulge important information. It just doesn't make sense. And there's nobody. And the fact that the faithful believe that this is like the only place that it happens everywhere. Every other team in the NFL, they're not going to talk. That Bill Belichick has won 900 Super Bowls and he doesn't say anything. So that's what I'm trying to say. We are the ones, and I'll classify myself, because sometimes I get heated on Twitter and I say things that I don't mean like 8 minutes later.
Mhm.
That's us. We have to realize that. I don't know. There's no reason for him for Lynch or York to go out there and go, yeah, well, this is what's going on. This is what we're going to do, because no other NFL team does that.
Yeah, I agree. I think you make a great point when you say you can't give up your hand, because it's
Yeah.
not just the fans that are watching. It's
Hmm.
the other 31 teams that are watching as well. So,
Exactly.
yeah, I really like that. I want to talk and jump into Debo. That was a perfect transition because I know I know we talked about a little bit about it when I was on your show, but I want to know where you're at with it. So let me ask you this:
Hmm.
what is your take on what is really going on behind the scenes with Debo Samuel?
Well, geez, if I had the real take on that, I'd probably be making some good money right now. But okay, so I'm under I'm under the whole idea of when there's a ton of smoke, there's gotta be some fire there. And I don't know if I'm gonna believe everything that Debo puts on his social media. Um, but I am gonna subscribe to the fact of I think he really is upset that he hasn't probably seen an offer yet from the 49ers. Um, I don't subscribe to the narrative where, Fred Warner just said it the other day where he says, "Oh, you got to be patient." So just because you were patient and just because George Kittle was pretty patient or Trent Williams until the very end, that doesn't mean that that's the same style that Debo Samuel or his agent's going to take. Maybe when you have an offseason like this, where every top wide receiver almost is getting paid, and you look at Debo Samuel, who was basically the highlight reel of the NFL season this year, what did he account for? 28% of the 49ers offense this
Hmm.
season. And he almost single-handedly got them to the NFC title game. And he's not getting talked to by the 49ers on an extension coming up on his final year of a rookie deal where he's going to make what, $3.4 million this year. And look, I think he's angry. I think he's irked. I think a lot of it is coming from his agent. I think his agent's in his ear. Um, at the end of the day, I'm going to have to start leaning towards the fact that I do think he is traded. And I don't want to think that because I'm normally pretty positive and that's what I want to think. But man, with how easy it's been for players to just get traded from here to there, if Jerry Rice can leave the 49ers, so can Debo Samuel. You know what I mean? So um, I look at it as if that's cool that the 49ers media want to say, well, Fred Warner, this, George Kittle, that. The Niners like to wait until August to pay people. Well, maybe Debo doesn't want to wait till August. These are pro athletes. They have a mind of their own, and they have their own agents who have their own agendas. I I'm not going to sit here and believe that the reason why he's angry or wants to be traded is because he's getting the ball a lot from the backfield. That doesn't work that way. That all you have to do is go in a negotiation table and say, "Look, Kyle, I just really don't want to run the ball that much. I want to be a wide receiver, and that's all I want to do." You can work it out behind the scenes with that. There's got to be something deeper than this because we've all been told how great of a relationship Debo has with Kyle Shanahan, um, personally and professionally. So there's got to be something that happened, something that was said to Debo for him to do this. Um, First, the guy says he's not going to go to California to work out. Now he's been in LA working out for the past 2 weeks. We haven't really heard anything in terms of him working out with Trey Lance, like Brandon Ayuk has done. I know George Kittle doesn't work out in California either, but nobody says anything about that either. So yeah, to even begin to get in the mind of Debo at this point, man, I don't know because the only thing we've really heard is he doesn't want to run the ball out of the backfield. Come on, that's not the reason he wants to be traded. It doesn't. It that's asinine to me. That's elementary. It's got to be like everything else in sports. It has to come down to money. It has to come down to money. I mean, what at this point we're 2 days from we're a day from the draft. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. And so here's where I'm at with everything, because like we talked about when I was on your show, I think we touched on this. Um, we like to play the blame game in situations like this.
Yeah.
Who do we blame? Here's what I think about with this whole situation. I look towards the agent. And I think I told you that last time. I want to know, is Debo Samuel getting bad advice?
Hmm.
And then you really look at the big picture here. Who is this agent representing? Right?
Hmm.
It's a pattern here. But
Yep.
the question I'm going to ask myself and I'm going to ask you is this the new norm in negotiations in the offseason? The scrubbing of the social media, the acting out? Because if you ask me, I believe Debo Samuel's getting bad advice.
I agree. I think he's handled
Because
this the wrong way.
yeah, I think he is. I love Debo Samuel, but
Hmm.
I ask myself, what happened to the days of keeping your mouth shut,
Yep.
letting your agent negotiate for you, not
Hmm.
answering any questions, deferring them to your agent, keeping it classy? But
Hmm.
now it seems to be like it's an act. And it's not just Debo Samuel.
Hmm.
So is this the norm? Is this the beginning of what we're seeing with free agents? Because Kyler Murray did the same thing. And I don't know if they share the same agents. I doubt that they do. But should we be prepared for this going forward as a new negotiation tactic with these agents and their players?
I do. I think it's the new norm because I think it's the first time ever that we've had a platform for athletes to express themselves when it comes to I want to be paid or I feel disrespected. I love this team. Oh my gosh, I hate them now. I'm going to scrub them because it's like, it's like you were with a significant other. It didn't mean anything back in the day unless it became Facebook official. So now we're in an era where if you're upset with the team that you play for, well, I don't believe it until I check his Instagram to see if he's taking photos away, right? So I think it's the new norm depending on who the player is, because we've already seen that Cooper Kupp has come out and said, you ain't ever going to see me do anything like that in public. That's something that's going to be behind closed doors. Um, I think it really depends on who we are dealing with. And guys like Kyler Murray, guys like Debo Samuel, and I know Jalen Hurts did it when there was a lot of talk months ago, that the Eagles really wanted to get Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson. Jalen Hurts scrubbed the Eagles from his Instagram page. So yeah, I think it's the new norm, but I think it depends on who the athlete is. Is that the kind of guy that he is? We know Debo is very loud, very outspoken. So it did not surprise me at all when I saw that he decided to scrub his whole Instagram profile from the 49ers.
Yeah.
It ticked me off, but I'm just like, you know what? I agree with a lot of people and you in terms of I'm sure that was something his agent said. Well, first thing you got to do is just take the Niners off your Instagram page. So I
Yeah.
agree with you that I think it's bad advice too.
Yeah, it is bad advice. And I think you make a good point because essentially it's up to the player, right? Whether they're going to go along with it or not.
Yeah.
I did not
Hmm.
expect that from Debo Samuel, to be honest
Oh
with you. You
wow.
completely caught me off guard.
Hmm.
I don't know. Maybe I just didn't see it from him. But here's my thing. What does that really accomplish, though? I don't know that it accomplishes anything. Scrubbing your
It,
social media. I mean, who's paying attention to it? I mean, it gets fans talking, it gets the
mhm.
media talking. Does it give you leverage over the organization when it comes to negotiations?
I don't think it gives you leverage. I think it just, like I said, I think it's where it's the only way the athlete can speak for themselves without an agent in a way, right? So
Hmm.
unless the agent controls that player's social media, which I know there are agents that do that, um, but I feel like how old is Debo? 26, right? He's 26.
Yeah. Yep.
This is their generation. This is how they express themselves. And I feel they believe that, man, if I take them off of my social media, they're going to be calling me tomorrow. We're going to talk money. 90% chance that's not going to happen, Debo. I'm sorry. What's going to happen is you maybe doing what you did do is I want to be traded. That's going to get things moving, not scrubbing pictures off of your Instagram. While I think it, like you said, I think it is going to become the new norm. I also think it's a fad that's going to die quick when players realize that it, like you said, it doesn't work that way. And that's not a way to get a negotiation because at the end of the day, you still got to sit in front of the team and discuss facts and discuss numbers. They don't care that you take them off of your social media. I agree with you. I don't think they care.
Yeah, I don't either. And then here's another thing that I think about, and I want you to know whether you agree or disagree. If I'm Debo's agent, um, you should know that typically the 49ers don't open for business until what, maybe July or August.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Couple months after the
And
draft.
Right. So I don't know if there's communication or not, and from Kyle or anybody in the front office saying, "Hey, look, we're going to take care of you. Typically, this is how it works." I don't know if that happens or not. Your guess is probably as good as mine. However, John Lynch comes out and repeatedly says, "Hey, the Jimmy situation is not impacting our free agency whatsoever." Of course, he's probably going to say that. He's
Mm-hmm.
still working towards leverage, right?
Yep.
But my question to you is waiting until August or July to open up for business, does it help or does it hurt the 49ers?
I think it hurts because it's not like, and I'm going to take it back, and I don't like necessarily always repeating myself, but Fred Warner was okay waiting late. George Kittle was okay waiting late. Trent Williams was okay waiting to a certain point, but not every single player. And then on top of that, a superstar, a star. I wouldn't necessarily call Debo a superstar yet. I have a very I cut off things at the word, great superstar star. Debo's a star, but if you ask any head coach in the NFL, they'll always say to you, I got to deal with 52 different egos in my locker room, 52 different men. So with the Niners, they have to adapt, that whole thing, adapt or die. They have to realize that there are different agendas, there's different egos, and there's different plans that these certain players have. And you got to adjust to certain situations, right? So I think they're running into an issue where the league is changing. There was like 5 years ago, dude, you never saw mega trades in the NFL. You never saw, big time players like a Devontae Adams just leave a team after being a superstar with that team for a long time. The last 2 years in the NFL have been just has transcended how this sport is now, because there's so much money flying around. I think the Niners have to realize that you got to follow maybe how the shift is going. This last couple months has been a total wide receiver seismic shift in the NFL. Guys are getting paid, big names are getting traded. If you value Debo that much, if you do, and I think they do, I think they're just playing hardball. If you value Debo Samuel that much, then maybe you got to stop sitting on your hands and stop sticking to your moral code of July and August and September and say, let's work on this now and get this done and over with now. Because let's get it done before the price goes up. Because if another wide receiver signs for more money, then he's going to be even more angrier because he's going to look at maybe the first deal that he gets as an even bigger insult. So now you got to deal with that. So I don't understand what hurts throwing an offer at Debo in March. What hurts you by doing that? Right?
Yeah, right. That's what see. So that's where I'm at because look, if we play mediator here, and if I'm Debo Samuel and I'm a player, and I see Christian Kirk get paid what he's getting paid
God,
early
that
on,
ruined everything.
right? Look,
Yes.
if Christian Kirk gets paid that contract, probably 3 or 4 down. Let's say if Tyreek gets paid, then Adams gets paid, and then Diggs gets paid, and then Kirk gets paid. I don't know that we're necessarily talking that much about it.
If only Adams, Tyreek, and Diggs gets paid, I don't think this is as big of an issue on the Debo camp. Because you can understand why those three guys are getting paid what they are.
Right.
This is their second contract or
Yep.
even their third. So and they've been dominant for at least 3 or 4 years. And I don't mean this as a slight to Debo. This was his first legitimate breakout superstar season. That's awesome. And you're still on your rookie deal. The Niners don't owe you anything, really. It's your job to go out there and prove that you can be consistent at your production. And that's what I mean. And I think you're right. Christian Kirk, I can't even believe I'm saying this. Christian Kirk ruined it for everyone look, good for him for making that money. But Debo in any universe is going to be more valuable to a team than Christian Kirk. So that's what Debo's looking at. Debo's looking at, okay, I understand you don't want to pay me Adams money, Tyreek money, or even Stephon Diggs money. But I got to be right there. You got to pay me more than Christian Kirk. I got to be at least in that 22 to 24 million dollar range, 60 to 65 million dollars guaranteed. I think that's what the problem is. I think it's the guaranteed money. I don't think it's the AAV, the annual average. I think
Yeah,
it's I want to be paid in the top 5 of my full guarantee.
yeah, yeah. I was on the show the other day. I was on the Red and Gold 24/7. By the way, shout out that Niner Life in the house. Red and Gold is watching. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks for
And
watching.
I was talking to my guy Money Mav, and he actually made a great point. He asked us if the 49ers throw out 22 to 23 million to Debo Samuel right out of the gate before
Mhm.
anybody else is signed, does he take it? And this never happens. And you have to wonder. I mean, like you said, I think in my opinion, dragging your feet all the way until July or August, it kind of hurts them. Now I understand why they do it. They probably want to let the market die down,
Mhm.
but I see more negatives than I do see positives. And that's a question I ask myself. If we throw out 22 million a year in guarantees of Debo Samuel right out of the gate before Kirk gets paid, does he take it? What do you think?
I think
I
he
know
does because he doesn't
I,
have anything else to base it on,
right.
right?
And I understand it's a difficult question. I really
It
do. But it's a good question to think about.
I think sometimes it's a really good advantage for the team to get in early. To me, if right after the season when they had that end of the season press conference where Shanahan and Lynch said, "Oh, don't worry about guys like Bosa and Debo. They're going to be part of this franchise. They're foundations of this franchise. They're going to be here a long time." They should have gotten that deal done within like the next month.
Hmm.
They should have, or at least had something done in principle, like a handshake agreement. Boom, this is what we're going to offer you. Is this good? We're in that range. Debo's camp says yes. Let's get that done. Once, and like I said, it's a running thing. Once Christian Kirk signed, the rest of the NFL said, "Oh, dang, we got to start locking up these receivers, or let's take trade offers because we can't pay our receiver that kind of money right now." Because immediately when Kirk signed, you know for a fact that all the teams with top wide receivers were like, "Oh, dear God, what do we got to offer our guy now? What do we have to offer Tyreek? What do we have to offer Devontae Adams to stay? Or to appease them?" Because Devontae could have been franchise tagged.
Hmm.
So, but he was going to make good money that way anyway. So I think if you would have gotten to this early, yeah, I think Debo would have been locked up. He would have had 49ers photos on his Instagram page. There would have been the only thing we would have been talking about right now is still Jimmy Garoppolo. But this Debo thing took Jimmy Garoppolo down to like the bottom of the ocean that nobody cares about now. This is this is unbelievable. I can't believe in one off season we've had these two just mega stories with this team.
Yeah, and I keep saying that. I think the biggest winner from this whole situation, all these shenanigans going on, pretty much is Jimmy Garoppolo. I really do
Yeah.
think he's one winner. Two more questions for you, bud, and I'll get you on out of here.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Grant Cohn asked John Lynch yesterday, or basically told him you're having a subpar off season, and it almost seemed like John Lynch doesn't agree. I want to
Hmm.
get your take on that. How do you think the offseason is going for John Lynch?
I think from a PR standpoint, it's going awful. From a if I was a public relations person or their social media guy, I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. From a roster standpoint, I think it's gone okay. The problem is they don't have any money. There's not only so much they can do. What helps them when we get the training camp, if let's just say if Debo gets signed, if they go in the training camp and Debo is signed, they have Trey Lance, even if they still have Jimmy on the books, which I think they might still have going into camp,
Mm-hmm.
then you can probably say it wasn't a great offseason, but this team is already so well built that I'm not going to worry about it too much. But with the fact that Debo might get traded and Jimmy's still on the roster, and you still don't have any money, like right now, they don't even have enough money to sign their draft picks. So
Nope.
I would, I'm going to lean because technically Debo's still on the roster. I'm going to say it's been I guess, mediocre offseason. If Debo gets traded, regardless of what the haul is of draft picks in return, because draft picks are all unknowns anyway, I'm going to lean towards it was a really difficult, bad offseason coming off. You were you were a drive away from the Super Bowl. So, and they lost more than they gained. So I would say I'm trying to be nice here, but I would say it hasn't been a really good offseason in my opinion.
Yeah, man. I mean, to say the least, to be honest with you, from a PR perspective. Last question, brother. I want to know. I am curious to know, where do you think they're going to go with their first pick?
So, do they have a first-round draft pick tomorrow?
No, without
a second rounder,
without a trade. So, I was going to ask you, but you said earlier you thought it wasn't going to get done with Deebo Samuel. Am I correct? Did I hear you correctly?
I think I'm leaning towards he's going to get traded.
Okay.
But I don't know if it's going to be by tomorrow night. I just don't know. Gosh, it's such a difficult question right now. I don't think they get something done in time. So I don't think they get something done in time by tomorrow night to have a first round pick. So I'm going to say that Debo stays on the 49ers. And if Debo stays on the 49ers past Thursday, then he'll get an extension probably by June or July. I'm hoping before that. But if he doesn't get traded Thursday, then he'll be extended. Things will die down after that. So if they're keeping their pick, I think their first pick will be a center.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's where I'm at. So look, here's what I mock. If Debo is traded, I probably think we're going to go right back in and pick a wide receiver.
I agree. Yes.
Yep.
I'm on that camp as well.
Yeah, and I really like Drake London from USC. I've been watching a lot of tape on him, but he's a mid-round first rounder. But if they don't, I think I'm with you. I personally want a safety, but with the whole Alex Mack situation, I can either see a right tackle or a center.
Yeah, to me, you're now in Trey Lance protection mode. You got to do whatever you have to do to protect him and give him the best chance to succeed. So, to me, I'm an old school football guy. I'm sure you are. Yep. Everything begins and ends in the trenches. So, to me, man, if you got a first round pick and you trade Debo, then there's a couple really good wide receivers. Go get that receiver. If you're sticking to your pick now, you got to get like you said, an offensive lineman. You got to get a center because even if Mac returns, this would probably be his last season. You got to have, it'd be good to draft a center and have him learn from Mac the entire year, right? So that's where I'm at. Like, if it's not a wide receiver in the first round, then you got to go offensive line in your first pick.
I definitely agree, man. I definitely agree. So, Chris, hey, man, it's been a pleasure having you on. It's always a pleasure talking to someone with a great football mind. I know we reversed the roles here. It's been awesome. If people wanted to find you, where can they find you, Chris?
All right. So at Gold Rush Niners Pod on Instagram, check me out there. Again, if you guys, anywhere you listen to podcasts, we're in audio only for now. I'm working on trying to get everything onto YouTube for when the season starts. So anywhere you guys listen to podcast, Gold Rush Niners Pod. I just had Ron here on this past week, and then I doubled up and had a second show of the week where I interviewed Rob Sats-Guerrera from Niners Nation. Had a really good conversation there. But yeah, definitely check us out. Looking forward to the rest of the offseason, and then I'll be doing 3 shows a week, probably 2 to 3 shows a week once the season starts. So a lot of good things to come. Hopefully, it'll be watching Debo Samuel still with the 49ers.
Boom. Chris DiFrancesco, I'm saying that right. Am I wrong or am I right?
No, you're good. You're right on there, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you being on. Hey, everybody, thank you for watching. Remember, that Niner life, it's not just a fan base. It's a community. It's a lifestyle, baby. Have a good one.